this would be my hometown PDA charter. I'm over in Encino, so
Oh, very good.
close
Well,
by.
welcome.
Yeah.
Great.
And then I guess the other thing. So I used to always say, so a big rival of Whittier is Occidental. So we used to always say, well, at least the U.S. president graduated from our school, because Obama only did 2 years and then went to Columbia.
Right.
But with that said, it's good to see everyone tonight. I see a lot of familiar faces, which is always nice. My name is Ben Seinfeld. I'm the political director for the California Democratic Party. It's really great to be here tonight. As you all know, we have a recall. And I did actually go look it up, Mike. There were 4 recall attempts of Governor Brown during his term. This recall attempt that's happening right now, this is the 6th recall attempt of Governor Newsom since he took office. Now, Governor Newsom took office, I believe, just under 3 years ago. So if you kind of put that in perspective, it's basically, every 6-7 months, they'd file another recall attempt because they wouldn't get enough signatures. Now, what happened was a judge who was appointed by Governor Schwarzenegger and was who President Trump did try and appoint to move up. He said, oh, well, you can get an extra 120 days. And those 120 days gave the Republicans who put this together the ability to collect an additional about 900,000 signatures to be able to qualify this recall. Now, let's be very clear about who started this recall. This recall was started by QAnon conspiracy theorists, by anti-vaxxers, anti-masks people. One of the people who is the leader of this recall has publicly gone out saying that we need to microchip undocumented citizens, similar to how you would microchip a dog. So those are the people who said, let's try and again recall Governor Newsom. Mind you, this recall attempt started before the pandemic. It doesn't mention anything about the pandemic. So the Republican Party has obviously jumped on this because it's opportunism, right? They want to get behind it. They lost the White House. They couldn't win back the Senate. They lost the Senate. They couldn't win back the House. And so this is Republican opportunism. And so I know there's been a lot of debate, but just to be very clear, this is a Republican recall of Governor Newsom. Governor Newsom was elected with I believe, just almost 60% of the vote in 2018. Donald Trump couldn't even reach 38%. Consistently, this recall has been coming in with about 36% support in California. I think when you look at all the different things, this is a Republican recall attempt. They have peaked at where they are in terms of support. And so where we are at now is the recall campaign is in full swing. It is raising money. The California Democratic Party was the first contributor. We made a donation of $250,000. And from there on, we've also continued to do a lot of work for the recall campaign. What makes it very easy for us to coordinate with them is that the no on recall, a recall is essentially like a ballot proposition. So the yes on recall, no on recall are proposition campaigns, whereas anyone who wants to run for governor in the recall has to run as a candidate. And so then they have to follow those restrictions that a candidate campaign would have to do versus a proposition campaign. So the CDP is working very closely with the recall campaign in every aspect of what they're doing. And the CDP will be the lead in the organizing grassroots field component of the recall campaign. And I know that when I was emailing with Michael and Mike, they were saying how PDA is not an affiliate of the Democratic Party. I would go to a Friars Club meeting, to talk about the recall. So it doesn't matter who the group is. We are here to talk with anyone about how you can get involved and why you do not want to support this recall. So with that, I think the main thing I kind of want to just touch on is the Stop the Republican Recall campaign is doing very strong. Within the first 3 weeks of filing, they raised over $3.1 million with an average donation of $23. They have identified over 400,000 people through a text messaging campaign where they've had over 2,000 volunteers. And through that campaign, they've identified over 400,000 individuals who oppose the recall. And at the same time, California is in great shape. They're talking about reopening sometime in about a month. The governor just unveiled probably the greatest budget we have ever seen, the historic levels of investment in education and equitable access to services and everything. I was about to mention something that's being announced tomorrow, and I couldn't say it yet. So look out tomorrow for the last bit, which is also very exciting. The incredible investment in homelessness and housing. So the point is, California is doing really well. And as we continue to reopen, I think a lot of the frustration that people have had who signed is starting to wane, because throughout this entire time, the governor has consistently had an approval rating in the mid-50s. The government, the recall campaign, the opposition to the recall campaign has stayed above 50%. It's in a strong position. And as we continue moving forward and continue organizing and doing the work that we need to do, we will defeat this recall. And what makes this a really incredible opportunity, though, is that we're going to take, I think the Republicans probably think that they're getting one over on us or something like that by doing this recall. But we're taking this recall, we're taking the organizing we're going to do, the infrastructure we're going to build, and we're going to put it all together, and then we're going to keep it together and just move it right into the midterms. So, and that's really what we're trying to do. With every situation, what opportunity opens the door? What's the saying? Whenever a door shuts, another one opens. That's what we're doing with the recall. So with that, I'm here to answer as many questions as you want or as you have time for, but I'm excited to be joining you all tonight. So with that, thank you, Michael. Michael, you're on mute. I'm sorry, I can't hear you.
Yeah, I'll just start off with a quick question. I didn't quite pick up. Does it look, pretty good for being able to defeat the recall? I
would never go into anything saying we're going to defeat the recall, but yeah. I think that we are in the strongest position as possible to defeat the recall. We have, just to kind of do a couple of comparisons, because a lot of people are comparing this to 2003. And actually, I read the Republican memo on why we're going to win. And, I think that their initial strategy, their initial kind of assumptions are really flawed. When Governor Gray Davis was recalled in 2003, his approval rating was in the mid-20s. Governor Newsom's in the 50s. When Governor Gray Davis won his reelection in 2002, if I'm not mistaken, he won with 52 to 54%. Governor Newsom almost had 60%. Also, when you look at the voter reg, 2002 California, 2021 California, 2003, 2021 are two very different Californias. Orange County was Republican stronghold, right? Now, in 2018, we flipped every seat. Yes, we had some setbacks in the 39th and 48th, but we're ready to go. We're organizing and we're getting ready. And so when you look at a lot of these things, it really tells me we are in a strong position. And then finally, the only reason this recall, after multiple attempts in a pre-pandemic world, the only reason it got through was because instead of the 5 months that the courts give you for a recall, they got 9 months. So that's really the only reason that there is a recall. There's a very, if you look up Jerry Brown recall, you'll get the Secretary of State website and it'll list every single recall attempt. And you just look at it, it's Governor Newsom, they just kept doing it. It's the same people over and over again. And so as we continue to reopen, a lot of the angst that people had, as I was mentioning, things are getting better. I just read something today saying the CDC says that in most scenarios now, you don't even have to wear a mask inside if you're vaccinated. right? Like we are really starting to get to a place where society resumes. The economy is moving in the right direction. We have an incredible surplus. There, 2/3 of all Californians are expected to be getting a $600 tax rebate from the state, which is going to be helping a lot of people. So things are moving in the right direction. So I feel very strongly about that we will defeat this recall, but I'll never say never. Just,
Yeah, of course.
I've been doing this too long.
Yeah.
I think Wade has the first question. And then Leah.
Yeah, I was just wondering, when are we expecting this election to happen?
So so basically the way that it works is there's like a couple of different deadlines along the way. And really what happens is, like the Secretary of State had until a certain date to certify one thing. And then the registrars had another date. And so when you add up all those dates, this could be happening in, I would say mid-November. Now, the thing is, if anyone completes what they did much earlier, you can move it up on time, right? If the legislature, approves it earlier, if the Secretary of State approves it earlier, Lieutenant Governor schedules it earlier. So there's a lot of those things, but I'm still hearing that it's going to be in the fall. But until we know precisely, until the Lieutenant Governor calls it, we're really still in this place kind of a flux. But the point is, we're already doing the work now. So we're not waiting until, we know the date. We're getting ready. We're getting organized. My colleague Lizzie Habor wasn't able to join us tonight, but she is she's the CDP's new organizing director, and she'll have a team. And this isn't just hiring an organizing director for the recall. This is actually going to be a permanent position with a permanent department at the party for organizing and coalition building. So, like I said, using the recall then as an opportunity for the midterms. Thank you.
Leah? I think you're on mute.
I'm unmuting, yes. I have a couple of statements to make to add to this. I'm in a ad hoc recall committee for DIPSIV. And one of the important things is that if the recall goes through, Newsom is not able, you cannot vote for him. And one of the bad things is Democrats don't turn up for odd elections. For a recall election, we have to really pound the streets and make sure that everybody votes. I do think we're going to get a ballot from the Secretary of State to vote, which will be a big help. But Newsom has never been behind in the polling. But it depends on us to get out there and vote. I put my hand down now.
I couldn't agree more with everything that Leah said.
All right, Ben, I have a question.
Yeah.
Is there a serious challenge in the courts to the extension?
So yeah, I think we've all seen that. There was a court file. There was someone filed in Sacramento to basically say that the extension provided by the Superior Court judge was unconstitutional because in California, only a ballot proposition could change the Constitution and provide more time, and that the judge didn't have the authority to do that. We'll see what happens, but until something happens, we are operating with the assumption the recall is happening. So we will continue doing what we're doing. And up until the point a judge rules it's not happening and the Secretary of State says this isn't happening, we're assuming it's happening.
Okay. Doris and Lloyd, you're next.
Yeah, it's Lloyd.
Lloyd.
My question relates to what Leah spoke about. If Newsom has a high rating, approval rate, then the problem is how to get out the Democratic voting. and voters. And is that part of your plan?
Yeah. So the first thing is that fortunately, in the general last cycle, they did a special thing to basically all counties had to mail a ballot out to voters, but now they've actually passed a law, and California is now an all vote by mail state. So every county is required to mail a ballot to every registered voter. And so through combinations of voter registration drives and early communication with voters, we'll make sure that, as many Democrats as possible get a ballot. But then on top of that, I can assure you this is going to be a very well-funded campaign. Like I said, it's not just money from, unions and whatnot. It's also individuals donating in large droves to the recall campaign, to the Stop the Republican Recall campaign, sorry. And then finally, as we're talking about this, we're going to build an organizing effort to turn out the vote, to make sure that we can really get people to vote. And what makes this a little interesting is when you think about a lot of the races that we've been doing lately, we've been focusing all our efforts on turning people out in the Central Valley and Orange County and whatnot. In this election, it's going to matter about you turning out voters in Tarzana and Reseda and Northridge and Canoga Park and Sherman Oaks, because these are Democratic strongholds. We need Democrats to vote en masse. And so it's going to be an interesting opportunity because it's going to give DPSIF, who, DPSIF does so much great organizing, but it's all going to Santa Clarita and Simi Valley, right? Now we're actually talking about doing the work here at home, and that's going to be all across the state. It's not to say we won't try and do some targeted things in the areas where we have the congressional seats that we want to flip, just to kind of, continue to get voters used to voting. I can specifically think of the 21st congressional district. It is a majority Democratic district, but the Democrats just don't vote. And so we really have to turn people out. And so I can see us doing special work there. And so we're trying to also work with the DCCC, the DSCC, the Democratic Governors Association to get involved. I mean, you wouldn't think it, but the Democratic Senate Campaign Committee is interested in this recall, because if the Governor Newsom gets recalled, well, whoever the new governor would have the ability to appoint a senator if Senator Feinstein was no longer senator before 2024. So this is an all hands-on effort, and we're going to do what we need to do to turn it out. So.
And I have another question. There was polling on Democrats were interested in having a Democrat on the lower part, just in case. Is there some serious consideration to doing that?
I'm sorry, one second.
Do we lose the sound?
No, I'm sorry. My wife is playing with our dogs outside, and she thought now was the time to have them run into the garage, and I could hear them coming. So,
did you hear my question?
I did, yes.
Okay.
So, the California Democratic Party is opposed to the recall, and that's our position. We are not. We passed, and on top of that, we passed a resolution basically saying we oppose this resolution, and we oppose anyone who files to be a candidate to take advantage of this recall. So we will not be supporting anyone who gets into this recall.
Mike, you had a question? Oh,
Yeah, I just wanted to.
I'm
I'm
sorry.
gonna borrow your red lamp from the kitchen.
Oh, that's fine. You already talked about it. That's great.
Yep.
You're listening to.
Am I up?
I think Iris needs to mute. There. I saw Marilyn with her hand raised.
So I just wanted to point out a couple things. I don't know how familiar you are with our organization, Ben, but we are, the Progressive Democrats of America. And I just wanted to point out that two of our major issues are, the healthcare is a human right, and the climate emergency. And I wanted to point out that we have a couple people in PDA that are very instrumental and on those two issues in the state and national level. And I know this is a little outside the paradigm, but I did want to give you a little background on it, is Russell Green, who actually is very involved in fighting the climate emergency. He's been doing this for years. And it was actually him who in the 2016 Democratic Party platform insisted that the president have a meeting with global leaders, which is one of the reasons that President Biden did have that meeting, because it was in the platform and he followed it. And also Dr. Bill Honigman, who happens to be on this call, is very involved in the Medicare for All campaign. And, you know, he's known statewide and nationally. He's been involved with professional people that do it, that have authored the bills for Medicare for All at the national level. And I just wanted to know if you had any sense if Governor Newsom would be supportive of AB 1400, you know, which is Ash Kalra and Miguel Santiago's bill for single payer in California, because it's pretty strongly supported by, you know, the grassroots of the California Democratic Party.
Yeah. So, I mean, first off, I think anyone who's in the CDP knows who Dr. Bill is. So I'll say that first. I don't know. I don't work for the governor. I work for the CDP, so I don't know his position on 1400. So I apologize, but if I'm not mistaken, the CDP also endorsed AB 1400 at the convention. So, you know, that is we support the legislation. You know, I support healthcare for all. I don't know enough about healthcare to know what's the right way. I know how to do campaigns, so I like to trust the medical experts to decide how we give people healthcare. I'll focus on getting the people elected who will, you know, do the policy changes.
Okay, well, I appreciate that. I'm sorry if I might have overstepped the bound.
No problem at all. I mean, take advantage of me while I'm here. Like I said, I do think Marilyn Faber had her hand raised, but she was raising her physical hand. So
Marilyn and then Leah. Marilyn, did you have your hand raised? Marilyn, I think you're muted.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Oh,
Now we
okay.
can.
Okay. Ben,
yes.
I just wanted to make a statement. You know, I don't hear the Democratic Party coming out enough and actually saying that it's the alt-right and the white nationalists that have said repeatedly that you start at the state level before you go to the top. If you want to change the system, you start with the state. And it's a pretty scary thing. And I think that's what they're really trying to do. You start at the state and work your way up. You get enough governors and people in state government on your side, you have a better chance of toppling the top. And I'd like to hear the Democrats come out more and say more about that and voice that.
Well,
You've heard that, haven't you?
Well, I was going to say the first thing. I mean, I think the white nationals and them got someone in the presidency for the last 4 years. So, you know, fortunately, we were able to get rid of him. You know, the messaging from the party, you know, while we don't, you know, we've been pretty clear of the messaging from the party that this is a Republican recall of California, that this is QAnon conspiracy theorists, white nationals, anti-vaxxers, anti-maskers who are the ones pushing the recall. There was a slight bit of dissent from some people who don't like that messaging, but I think, you know, I laid it out pretty clear on how this is a Republican recall attempt, right? It wasn't, you know, if the recall had started in, you know, November of last year, you could make the argument it wasn't, but the recall started before the pandemic. So, but I recognize what you're saying. I can assure you that is in our messaging. Maybe it's not as forthright as some people would like. I think there's just a little, you know, some of the communications folks are trying to just be subtle in it, because ultimately, while this is a Republican recall, there were many people who signed the recall petition who I think are not white nationals or QAnon conspiracists. You know, they were people who were just frustrated at the moment. And we're looking forward to them coming back to our side and voting to oppose the recall.
Leah?
Yes, there's a detailed toolkit to fight the recall, and I'd be glad to send it to anybody that wants it. We want good letters to the editor, especially in the smaller areas than where we have local newspapers. And also, I provide the speakers for any club that wants to have a speaker on the recall. And I don't know if any of you have seen the horrible ads that have come out. Beauty and the Beast is minor compared to some of the sweatshirts that they have. You would think the devil was our governor. A very dirty campaign.
Okay. Well, we're approaching a half hour. We probably have about 7 more minutes. So if we wanted to have the last couple questions or any closing statements, maybe now would be the time to do it, because at 7:45, I want to do a little bit of business before the next speaker. So, or else we can do it now if there's no further questions.
I don't see any questions. Ben,
Okay.
do you want to make a statement or two?
No, I think we went over most things. What I will do right now is I'm just going to put my email in the chat. So if anyone has any follow-up questions or anything like that, please let me know. One of the things that the party is doing is obviously, in my capacity as political director, I'm making my way around, but we are getting to the point where we'll have surrogates, but we couldn't do what we're doing without groups like DIPSIF and the work that Leah is doing in showing up, promoting the toolkit that she mentioned and all of that. So, like I said, we're kind of building the ground operation. And so I do encourage you to work with, while I understand PDA is not a part of the Democratic Party, I look forward to PDA working with Leah and DIPSIF and LA-CDP in the work that we're going to be doing over the next couple months to keep Gavin Newsom as our governor.
Okay, well, we're behind you. So appreciate your presentation. You're welcome to stay for the remainder of the meeting. You're welcome to go on to other things that you may have to do, but you're certainly welcome here.
Absolutely. And Mike, shoot me an email. Let's figure out the broader meeting that you would like to do. And good to see you, Renee. So, yeah. Bye, everyone.
Okay.